Hello guys, welcome to my mini garage. This little Mazda has been sitting in the stash for quite some time. I've always wanted to build it, so today is the day. I started by removing the mold lines with 600 grit sanding sponge. After they had been cleaned up, I sanded the entire car using 1000 grit. The panel lines were re-scribed with a Scriber. They were looking okay, but it wouldn't hurt to deepen them a little more so they won't get filled up with other paint layers later on. I wanted to open up the headlight, so I did that with my Scriber and a sharp hobby knife. It was a pain, but I managed to cut them both open without cutting my fingers off or damaging the car. The kit didn't come with any headlight, but I found a pair from my spare parts. I am not a fan of the big rounded headlight, so I changed it to lazy eyes or sleepy eyes. My plan for this build was to make this cute little guy less cute and a little more aggressive looking. These wheels looked pretty aggressive on this little guy, so I decided to use them. No, just kidding. A good way to change the look of the car would be to install a body kit. I found a body kit on Codes 3D, printed it out with my 3D printer. It was designed for this car by Black Box STL. You probably have already heard of him if you build and print. He has a lot of good designs on his account, so check him out if you haven't. Since I had my printer up and running, I took the chance and printed a few more things from the website. After cleaning up all the prints, that's about 2000 years later, I started attaching some of the parts onto the body. The intercooler had to be installed from the inside, so I primed and painted it before attaching it to the original bumper of the car. No cutting was needed to install the front bumper of the car, but I had to use super glue because the plastic cement wouldn't work on resin. The hood pins, which were also 3D printed, and the mirrors were also attached onto the car. To attach the spoiler safely, I planted a pin into the mounting bracket and drilled 2 matching holes into the trunk. After that, I took it to the paint booth and primed it gray. Then it was painted in blue and clear coated using Tamiya spray cans. After the body was painted, I set it to the side for the paint to cure. Then I started putting together the chassis. Just like the body, I started by removing the mold lines and the sprue marks. Then I glued the parts to the chassis using plastic cement. I gave the undercarriage of the car a little rough texture. I used Tamiya's white putty, thinned down with lacquer thinner, and I applied the putty onto the surface with a stiff brush. I learned this trick from night shift, but I have always been a terrible student, so I don't think I've done it right. Fortunately, it's not gonna be seen very often anyway. After that, I put the chassis aside and started working on the interior. I like the look of the racing seat, I like the style, but when I put them in the car, they turned out to be a little taller than the roof of the car. That's okay, I just had to shorten it a little. After they were shortened, I started working on the interior. I needed some inspiration, so I went on the internet and I saw this picture. It was created by a talented illustrator. The name of the artist is Fernando Correa. He has lots of amazing drawings on his account, but his drift punk style car was the one that caught my eyes. It's like a classic JDM drift car with a little bit of cyberpunk touches, and I find it fascinating. And that was the moment I decided it would be the theme for this project, a cyber drift punk. So I started looking for parts. I found the dashboard, I took the gauges and the paddles from it. Also found the keyboard, added a few bits to it to make it look like a tactical laptop. The center console was cut out to expose some hoses. For the plumbing, I even took a handlebar from an old Gundam build. I added a whole bunch of buttons on the dash, thinking about retro futuristic 80s, 90s vibe. Also cut out the glove box and fitted a few styrene rods behind it. I wanted to expose some of the internal structures, but it couldn't be seen once the dash was installed, so the modification was kind of pointless. I needed a place for the laptop, so I built a supporting tray and mounted that to the back of the firewall. Also 3D printed the Hydro e-brake. I snapped a few of these when taking them off the support. The car has no air conditioning, but it does have a massive fan blowing cold air, keeping the drivers cool. I built the electronic terminal for the computers. Cost me a couple of drill bits though. Also built a switch panel with some buttons on it. Added a few pipes and a door handle. I built a radio detector, but I had no idea where to put it. That was basically it for the cockpit. It looks tiny. It is tiny, but it's packed with electronics and technology. After I was done with the chassis and the interior, I took them to the paint booth and primed them black. Many parts had to be painted in silver metallic, so I painted those parts first using an airbrush. After that was done, I took out a small brush and started painting small details. I didn't want a mask, didn't have much patience for that, so I just had to trust my brush painting skills. The rough texture on the chassis was subpar, definitely not the best obviously, but I will take that as my first ever attempt. I painted the transmission, did a little bit of dry brushing to imitate scratching, scraping, and chipping. After that was done, the chassis was complete. The interior was also painted with a brush. I glued together most of the parts to the interior before priming. I usually would paint the part, then use super glue to attach it. But this car has a lot of small parts, and I didn't want to risk getting super glue all over the place. This camera-looking device is the car's MCCU, or Master Computer Control Unit. Think of it as the Siri in the 80s or the 90s. In the not far away imaginary future, all cars on the roads are AI-driven, which makes it an easy target for hackers. This tactical laptop is used for hacking. It can be used to hack into your car, your home, your phone, your computer, and your mind. I painted the exposed wires in yellow. That will make a better contrast in the black background. Also looks more sci-fi. All of these electronics are there to help the driver avoid being detected and getting caught. Because in the imaginary future, gas-powered vehicles have been banned. Driving or even owning one becomes a felony. If they catch you driving anything with a gas engine in it, they will destroy it in front of your eyes. No ticket, no towing away. They will crush it. The monitor screens were downloaded from the internet. I printed them out on a piece of paper, cut them to shape, and then stick them onto the screens. After that, the dashboard was done. The back of the interior was still kinda empty, so I filled it in with some wires and cables to make it look a little more busy. And while I was doing that, I broke the shifter, so I had to reattach that. And once the racing seats were glued down, the photo-etched seat belts were also attached onto the seats. I added a couple of anchor points to hold down the seat belts buckles. After that, I added a few more cables, and that was done. While I was doing all of that, the body had fully cured, so I masked and painted the black trims, which always felt like a torture. I repainted the hood and the trunk in bare metal color to make it look like they have been replaced at a point. The hardtop was also painted in the same color. The center mirror was rebuilt. I added a few extra bits to it to make it more futuristic. After that, I went ahead and put together the rest of the parts on the car. And to finish it off, I applied a few random decals randomly. The decals were mostly from the vintage Fujimi kits I built in the past. The new ones don't give you as many as they used to. This car has been constantly on the run to avoid getting caught and crushed, so it isn't gonna be new or shiny. To match that vibe, I give the car a few rounds of dust, grime, and chipping. After that, I painted the katanas, placed them in the car, and the whole build was complete. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you want to support this channel, you're welcome to go to my mini store and grab a set of mini GTR engines. They are back in stock. Thank you guys. I will see you guys in my next build.